Taking the event ahead, the next video talks about the greatest teacher that ever walked on earth, but still remains a mystery to most of us. One of the best teacher and economist, a strategist who dethroned the king and wrote the name of Chandragupta Maurya in history with golden letters. So let's not make you wait any further and hear about the kingmaker, the teacher, the strategist, Chanakya.
Once a Chinese traveler came to meet Kautilya, known as Chanakya. It was dusk and darkness had just started to set in. When the traveler entered Chanakya's room, he saw that Chanakya was busy writing some important papers under the lighting of an oil lamp. You know that there were no bulbs or tube lights in those days, since there was no electricity. So in those days, people used to light oil lamps. Chanakya smilingly welcomed his guest and asked him to sit. He then quickly completed the work that he was doing. But do you know what he did on completing his writing work? He extinguished the oil lamp under which he was writing and lit another lamp. The Chinese traveler was surprised to see this. He thought that maybe this was a custom followed by Indians when a guest arrives at their home. The Chinese traveler asked Chanakya, "Is this a custom in India when a guest arrives at your house? I mean, extinguishing one lamp and lighting the other?" Chanakya replied, "No, my dear friend, there is no such custom. Actually, when you entered, I was working. It was an official work pertaining to my empire, my nation. The oil filled in that lamp has been bought from the money from the national treasury. Now I'm talking to you. This is a personal and a friendly conversation, not related to my nation. So I cannot use that lamp now, as it will lead to wastage of the money of the national treasury, since I extinguished the lamp and lit this other lamp, since the oil in this lamp has been bought from my personal money."
I hope you all liked the video. So our next speaker for the day is Mr. Rajesh Kamath. Talking about his journey, Mr. Rajesh Kamath is an electronic engineer from Savitribai Phule University, Pune. He is an MBA in HR certified by NTL and Kathleen Dannemiller Institute. Talking about his experience, he was an HR manager at Kali Consultant and later group head at CMS Computers. Head of Learning and Development Group at Mahindra and Mahindra for 5 years. He was the Associate Director of Service Consultants for a period of 3 years. He was one of the first few employees of Society of Human Resource Development, India's startup team in 2009. Currently more than HR Global, he is a co-founder and core member of MTHR Global. Now talking about his achievements, he is known for combining the best of Western and Indian management science to provide leadership consulting, coaching and learning solutions to the industry. These are a first of its kind in the industry. He founded the Living Philosophy Study Group, which takes Indian wisdom to corporates and education as a social cause. He does keynote sessions and trains across globe and writes for Indian and international magazines. He is a mentor to few startups and is on the advisory board for business schools. He is most passionate about living, loving, learning, leadership, and laughing. We are absolutely privileged to have you here with us today, sir. So, the previous video just gave us a glimpse of Chanakya. Now, let us hear more about Chanakya from Mr. Rajesh Kamath. Over to you, sir.
Let me first of all say namaste and good afternoon to good morning to all of you. I said afternoon because I was supposed to come in at 12 o'clock. But I guess this is a rare moment where I've been asked to come on even earlier. Normally in most programs, we lag behind. But here I'm very happy to see that we are racing ahead of time. So fantastic. Very valuable few points that I also heard Neil Sequeira sharing. And one of the things that I would like to take from there before I begin, before Chinmay has my presentation on, is the question that he asked, do you love your mother? I would like to actually reverse that and ask, does your mother love you? So your answer is of course yes. So I want to ask everyone to think for a moment about all the things that she, or for that matter, any other woman of your home, especially now even more in pandemic times, has been doing for you and other family members. Has she asked you at any point in time, your mother, at any point of her life, has she asked you to pay you for all the services she offered? The answer is clearly a no. So what do you call such service which is not expectant of any reward, of any remuneration, of any payment? This, dear friends, is called seva. I repeat, seva. And seva is that which is core to India, which is core to the land of Bharat. And seva comes out of a feeling of devotion, of love and commitment, out of bhakti. If I were to pick up one quality of Chanakya or of any great Indian personality from the past, any hero or heroine for that matter from the past, it would be seva. Because what they contributed, what they gave to the country, they never had any expectation of reward. They gave of themselves totally without any expectation, without any selfish motive. That's what created the Bharat that you and I have today, friends. So I want to pay our respects, first of all, to all our gurus, including the gurus at Aditya Institute, to Sunita ji and Pradeep ji, who got in touch with me and made this possible, and to all other faculty, teachers who may be listening in, right? For the endless amount of seva that you may have provided all these years. So with that, I'd like to get into my presentation now. Chinmay, do we have it yet?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Almost.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So yes, we can start whenever you are ready. One thing I would like to add, I think it got missed in the introduction, which is okay. Many other things got added. The organization that I now run, in addition to MTHR and Living Philosophy Study Group, because these are communities and they are not for profit communities, is called Chanakya Consulting Insights. And Chanakya Consulting Insights for the last 6+ years has been providing leadership consulting training completely based on Indian wisdom. So which means you'll be happy to know, friends, that there are at least 24 organizations that use Indian knowledge. As most of our knowledge today that we use in companies is all that which came from Western shores. Okay, so my effort today, not just today, but every single day, is how to bring and teach and use leadership lessons from Indian history every single day. Today is just one opportunity to share some of it with you. Okay, I'm going to just check with you, Chinmay, what time do you have for me, please? If you could just give me an idea, so I will time myself accordingly. Chinmay, what's the end time, please? Anybody could share with me. Pradeep ji, if you are there, or any other organizer.
Okay, so I think you can go on for as long as you wish to, of course.
Okay.
But looking at the constraint of time, I think
Yes.
12, if that's comfortable with you.
Yes.
If it is comfortable.
No
Yeah.
problem.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you
So
so
what
much.
I will do is I'll probably stop 5 to 10 minutes before 12. and we will take a few questions, even if not from the audience, at least from you. Okay,
Sure.
all right. So, friends, great opportunity. I've been an HR professional, continue to be an HR professional, besides many other things that I do. And here's a wonderful gathering, although virtual, that you are having. So with this, let me get into our presentation. May I request, if Ayush, you are navigating controls, could you please go to the next slide? So let me introduce to you our first leadership lesson. So you saw the video of Chanakya, or rather about Chanakya. Chanakya himself could not be filmed because it was too long back. But nevertheless, we heard a story about him. What does that tell you about his integrity? A lot, right? But we must know what was the purpose which drove him the most, which was the purpose using which he conducted his entire life. What was his vision for which he lived every moment? And that was the purpose of Akhanda Bharat. So what is this Akhanda Bharat? And why is he talking about Bharat then? Was it not Akhanda? So if you go to 3rd century BC, rather I'm talking about 300 BC. If you look at the history of the world, India at that point in time, of course, was Aryavart, as it was called, or Bharat, and was an agglomeration of 16 kingdoms, which were called as Mahajanpads. 16 kingdoms were there, but they were all in conflict with each other, or at least with several others, which means that each kingdom would try and expand themselves and acquire other kingdoms. Now, what happens with such a scenario? What would happen is at that point in time, if any foreign invader were to attack Bharat, then one king would play against the other. Is a large possibility. Secondly, each kingdom individually would not be able to stand up to the might of a very powerful invader, as we saw even later after many invaders attacked, whether it was Babur or whether it was the British, French, and so on. So Chanakya at that point in time was a teacher, an acharya, a guru. He wasn't a politician. He was a common citizen like you and me. But the teacher could see that if India is not united, Bharat does not become united, then there is going to be disaster in the future. So he created in his mind first the vision of Akhanda Bharat, and that vision became his purpose for the next several decades. So he was born as Vishnugupta, a young boy. His father was a teacher called Chanak, who inspired him with the ideals of life. So Chanakya became another of his names. You are often named after your father or your mother. And Kautilya comes from the Gotra, which we now know as gene pool, called Kautil, and not from the word Kutil, which means cunning. So the first thing I want to tell you, dear friends, is get your history right. Please understand that Chanakya was a character of epic proportions, a hero who was the first person to think of a land called Akhanda Bharat. Akhanda means जो खंडित नहीं है, जिसके कई सारे भाग नहीं है, जो एक है. So Akhanda is a united kingdom, a united country called Bharat. So that was the first leadership lesson I would like all of you to learn, that each of us must have a purpose which is much larger than ourselves. If our purpose is to get a good job, friends, your MBA is wasted. Your job should be the means to a larger purpose, to creating a better society, to creating a better nation, to creating a greater world. So that's the first leadership lesson we can learn from this man. So what did he do about this purpose? Please go to the next slide. He knew that he needs a good leader. Now remember, we go back to our original context, 16 kingdoms. How do you unite 16 kingdoms? You need one mighty leader. And that mighty leader is not just one who has weapons and strength, but who is also mighty in the mind. So if we looked at that point in time, which was the strongest kingdom? The strongest kingdom was the kingdom of Magad. Roughly, Magad would correspond to Bihar, Jharkhand, Bengal, a few more over there. And the king over there of Magad was a king called Raja Dhananand, Nanda dynasty as it was called. Dhananand also had 7 brothers, but Dhananand had become intoxicated with power, as it often happens. Lots of power made him corrupt, and Dhananand was not at all regarded as a good king. Despite that, Chanakya went to him to request him, at least if militarily he could take up the cause of uniting India and fighting the invaders. Why? Because at that very point in time, just as Chanakya had envisaged, the Greeks had invaded, and the Greeks were led by none other than Alexander. The moment we say Alexander, our mind says Alexander the Great, but rarely do we say Chanakya the Great. See how history has brainwashed our minds. So we will see what happened. So Alexander had conquered many kingdoms, many nations of that point in time, and was hastily marching towards India. In fact, he had reached the northwest frontier of India. Right? We know now about Afghanistan and Pakistan. These countries did not exist then. They were all part of at least the landmass called Bharat. So Chanakya went to Dhananand and said, can you take up the responsibility of protecting India's borders? The Greeks are there. What a great opportunity for Dhananand to become a leader, to get the public image of someone who is not just powerful in Magad, but in the entire Rashtra. But Dhananand instead insulted, humiliated Chanakya, asked him not to tell him what he should be doing. He said, it's none of my business to look at what's happening at the border, and nor is it your business. Chanakya pleaded with him because he was still the most powerful king. He had the largest army. He had the most wealth. He had the wherewithal, resources. But Dhananand insulted and humiliated him. So finally, Chanakya had to look at other options. But before he left from there, he took one pledge. You all know the pledge that he took. He opened his what is called a shikha. You can see in the image, right? The hair that is flowing. He opened his shikha because it is normally tied behind the back. He opened it behind the head rather. He opened it and he pledged that very day. He took an oath saying, I will not rest till you have been removed, till your dynasty has been finished and replaced by someone who truly deserves it. Because obviously Chanakya meant that you are not deserving of this. The only one who deserves it is one who is willing to serve the nation without any selfishness, as I mentioned earlier. So Chanakya had to go over there, go away from there, feeling humiliated, insulted, but not even for a moment down and out. He started looking for a suitable talent, and he started looking for someone who could be groomed. And he found a young boy playing a game not too far away from where he was at that moment. So as he was walking along, perhaps going back to his home, he saw a young boy playing a game. That young boy of 14 or 15 years, maybe even younger, was putting on the act of a king. And his friends were the people in the palace. And he was in that game, that boy was dispensing justice and settling cases. And he was doing it so beautifully that Chanakya knew immediately he has that potential. Today in HR, we use the word potential, but this was the true potential. So Chanakya immediately identified this boy. The name of that boy, as we know now, is Chandragupta Maurya. Chandragupta Maurya did not have any degrees. Chandragupta Maurya did not belong to any kingdom as a king or a prince. He was an ordinary boy, but of course he had some leadership qualities, also helped by the fact that his father was a tribal chief. He may have watched his father since he was a very young boy. So Chanakya decided to take that boy. He convinced the mother of Chandragupta Maurya and decided to take him to Takshashila, which was the world's first global university. And taking that boy there, he groomed him. He groomed him, not telling him initially what he was being groomed for, but he was obviously grooming him to become king, to become the first king of the Akhanda Bharat that would get created in the future. Look at this wonderful leadership lesson, how to identify and groom the right talent. I wish we had the time where I could take you through what Chanakya has written as the 51 qualities expected out of a king, expected out of a true leader. But for the moment, you can only know that he was able to see many of those qualities in the young Chandragupta Maurya. Please, can you go to the next slide? So now what happens? So Chandragupta Maurya was being groomed to become the king. But remember, Chanakya is neither a minister nor was he a politician to begin with. So he had no money, he had no power, he had no army, he had no weapons. What did he have? Buddhi. He had great intelligence. He had the sharpest intellect. So Chanakya, using his buddhi, his abilities, his qualities, after giving Chandragupta Maurya what I refer to as an accelerated leadership program, he also started working on other possibilities. He spoke to various kings of different kingdoms. He personally went across the nation and convincing them that united we will stand, divided we will fall. Please, can we join our forces together? He managed to convince them to bring their armies and some resources together. He created many allies, people who would fight under the leadership of Chandragupta Maurya, because Chandragupta Maurya had now been trained in every possible way, in economics, in politics, in warfare, in strategy, all of which is there in Kautilya's Arthashastra today, but we'll come to that later. However, now came the main task of how to defeat Alexander. So Chanakya had to use his buddhi again. Alexander was a mighty king with a huge army. It was impossible to defeat him. The united resources and armies of the various kingdoms whom Chanakya had helped to unite started resisting the force of Alexander, but they had no chance to defeat them. What helped, however, is the difficult topography of the land we now know as Afghanistan. It was very difficult for the Greek army to progress because of the mountains, because of the hilly areas, because of the rivers, and so on. So they were progressing very slowly. At that point in time, Chanakya spread the rumors, obviously through some agents, in the camp of Alexander, saying that India's armies are too strong and you will all be massacred very, very badly. So he also spread the rumor amongst them that your king doesn't care for you. Alexander does not care for you. He is putting you against the most difficult circumstances. And history has it today that Alexander's army rose in rebellion. They refused to march further because they could see the difficulties of going ahead in India, and it made their task even more difficult because now they heard about the united armies. So they protested and they said, Alexander, you want us to fight? We have been on the road. We have been fighting for so long. Now we need relief. Alexander tried to inspire them, motivate them. He used all methods. They refused to march. So Alexander finally, in exasperation, decided to march back. However, some lands were conquered, a few kingdoms which were conquered, he left behind under the leadership of his general called Seleucus Nicator. And Alexander himself, with his massive army, rest of the army, started marching back. But he could not believe that his own army has rebelled against him. He was demotivated, demoralized, and because of that, he contracted illness on the way, never reached back Greece. He seemed to have died in Babylon, which is roughly in modern day Iran today. All because of Chanakya's buddhi. Where strength does not work, you have to use buddhi. By spreading the rumors in the camp of Alexander, he was able to spread panic amongst the soldiers and make them do what Alexander would not have liked them to do. So if there was one man who stood against the might of Alexander in the whole world, it was Chandragupta Maurya. And Chandragupta Maurya was guided by the mind of Chanakya. Please go to the next slide. What happened next? So not only did he defeat Alexander, he was able to now create the belief in the minds of all the kings, at least by and large, that their suitable king to rule over the lands unitedly is Chandragupta Maurya. You may be wondering what happened to Dhananand. Chanakya again used his buddhi to find a way to kill Dhananand and his brothers through deceit, because he had already created, Dhananand had already created a lot of antagonism amongst his praja. His praja were so unhappy with him. So Dhananand used a way through a female spy to poison, Chanakya found a way through a female spy to poison Dhananand and his 7 brothers. So in a single night, Dhananand and his 7 brothers were finished, Magad was taken over, and Patliputra, which was the capital of Magad, became the capital of Akhanda Bharat. Chandragupta and his allies had won the war against Alexander in a very different way, of course, because Alexander retreated. And Chandragupta Maurya became king. There were many more obstacles, but I'm keeping it simple for you. But after Chandragupta Maurya, were there more leaders? Because it is easy to create leadership once. But what about leadership creating more leaders? So Chandragupta Maurya was able to create another king, his own son, called Bindusar. And Chandragupta's grandson and Bindusar's grandson, Bindusar's son, called Ashok, became Samrat Ashok or Samrat Ashok Chakravarti, who was the world's first global emperor, because an emperor is decided by the empire. And Ashok's empire went right up to Persia, not of course taking Persia, but on the boundaries of Persia, and right up to modern day Myanmar, and large parts of India, right up to the south. And of course, much of the Himalayan regions. This became Akhanda Bharat. And the grown Akhanda Bharat, Ashok became a very rightful king of. But Chanakya did not stop there. That's the beauty. Chanakya continued to teach and to write. Rather, he retired, passed on to another minister his responsibilities of ministership. He had done what he had set out to do. And he continued writing and created 2 masterpieces. One is the science of governance and prosperity called Kautilya's Arthashastra. And the other is Chanakya Niti. Yes, next slide, please. So these 2 became Chanakya's legacy, which we still study. I want to show you one framework which Chanakya made available to us from Arthashastra. I won't go through the details of this, but Chanakya knew and insisted that leadership alone can mean good governance. So he created many models and frameworks which are used very, very frequently by us with the organizations that we work with. One of them is called Saptang, or the 7 elements. The 7 elements are Swami, Amatya, Janpad, Durga, Kosha, Danda, Mitra, which corresponds to today's leader, manager, customer, infrastructure, treasury, team, and other stakeholders. But I want to focus on just one word, which is Swami, the feminine of which is Swamini. What does this word mean? This word means a self-conquered person, because Chanakya always believed and taught that only one who has managed to control himself or herself, managed to control one's emotions, managed to control one's bad qualities, alone can conquer the rest of the world. Such a person is called a Swami or a Swamini, and that is a leader. So Chanakya's first point in a good governance is about having a great leader. Next slide, please. Now comes to my point, which I had started with. So there is a very famous sutra in Arthashastra. And here comes my leadership lesson number 6 from Chanakya. It says, Praja sukhe sukham ragya, prajanam cha hitetam, natma priyam hitam ragya, prajanam tu priyam hitam. Next slide, please. This means that in the happiness of the subjects lies the happiness of the king. In the welfare of the subjects lies his own welfare. Look at the next part. What is dear to the king, what the king really loves, what the king likes, what the king wants, is not good for the king. What is dear to the subjects, जो प्रजा को चाहिए, जो जन को चाहिए, जो लोगों को चाहिए, जो उनको जरूरत है, alone is beneficial. Let's go to the next slide, please. If we were to convert subject, okay, please go to the previous. I'm sorry. I thought there was one more slide after that in between. Please go to previous. Now, if you look at converting the subjects to customers and king to leader, Chanakya is saying in the happiness of the customers lies the happiness of the leader. In the welfare of the customers lies his own welfare. What is Chanakya talking about? He's talking about seva. Remember, seva is not service. Seva is service with devotion, with loyalty, with love, with commitment. And hence it is so important for today's leaders to know that leadership is not about power. Leadership is about providing seva to your people. And in return, you get love, you get authority. People will keep you as a leader. You can't keep your own position as a leader. People give you that, just the way governments today are elected by the people and thrown away by the people. So leadership means seva. Next slide, please. The most important lesson from Chanakya before I go to another hero from history, I'm conscious of my time. I will use about 7 minutes more and we will take questions perhaps hopefully in the next 5-7 minutes after that. Chanakya solves the puzzle. Is leadership born or is leadership created? Chanakya says leadership is both inherent and cultivated. Next slide, please. How? So Chanakya gives a model which he calls as the excellences of the leader, the most brilliant qualities of the leader. Let's call that model EAST, E-A-S-T. E stands for energy qualities. Okay, qualities of showing urgency, qualities of putting energy into action, quality of response, all that comes under energy qualities. A stands for attitude. It talks about attitude of gratitude, it talks about attitude of respect, it talks about attitude of thinking big and so on. Then it comes to skills. It talks about communication skills, it talks about analytical skills, it talks about great listening skills, all of that. But most important, Chanakya says, are the inherent traits of the individual. The inbuilt personality of the one who becomes king. These are the traits which Chanakya was able to see in the young boy, the young Chandragupta, because of which he was made the leader, groomed to be the future king of Akhanda Bharat. So mind you, what is Chanakya saying? We need traits and then we will build energy qualities, attitude and skills. So it is both inherent and it is cultivated. Remember, next time if you face any time this question, is leadership born or is leadership cultivated? You must say it is both born and cultivated. It is both nature and nurture. Next slide, please. So we now come to, next slide, please. We now come to a quick case study. Being in Maharashtra or even being anywhere in India, one of the greatest kings we have had is Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj. And I'm going to refer to him as a Swami today. So Shivaji Raje had all the qualities that Chanakya looked for. Let's look at some of them. Next, please. So under energy qualities, I'm taking two qualities, Shaurya and Amarsha. Shaurya is valor, bravery. Amarsha is passion. Under attitude, I'm taking Shushrusha, which is listening deeply and hungry for learning, and Tattva Abhinivesha, which is focusing on crystallized wisdom, which is being wise. Under skills, I'm focusing on eloquence, ability to speak well, communication skills, but the spoken skills. And Kruta Shilpo, which is competent at all other things required functionally to be a leader. And under T, traits, here are three that I'm considering. Vruddha Darshi, which is seeking role models and mentors. Stula Laksho, having lofty vision. And Maha Utsaho, boundlessly energetic. Now let's look at some of these examples. Next slide, please. So we know that Shivaji Raje grew under the loving care of Jijabai, Jijamata, who was not only a nurturer, a mother, but she was the first guru. And she inculcated in him the first qualities of leadership. And she told him that, look, you don't go after Lakshmi. You become capable for Lakshmi. Lakshmi here refers to wealth, refers to prosperity. So Vruddha Darshi we saw earlier, we'll come back to it later. He always looked up to his mother, respected her even after he became king. He didn't say, now I am king, you don't know anything. Next, please. He's grooming another teacher. If I stay in a place called Dahisar. If you were to just peep out of the window, it is called Dadoji Kondev Chowk. And it says Guru Varya Dadoji Kondev Chowk. Whom is it referring to? The same man on your screen with Shivaji Maharaj. So while there was a Shastri Bua who taught him Ramayana, Mahabharata and other scriptures, Dadoji Kondev, who was a trusted man of his father, taught him about administration and also archery, sword fighting and wrestling. And because of that, he became very strong in all that he needed to know for becoming king at a young age. Right? He also taught him that you can't just fight on the basis of your weapons. You also need money because your army has to be fed. Yeah, next please. So Shivaji Raje began his quest and many things happened. But most of all, I want to tell you that he visited Bangalore where his father was. And he asked his father that, look, Bangalore is not like Pune where I was earlier. In Pune, everybody used to come to meet us. Now here I don't see anyone coming. Neither farmers come nor villagers come. And his stepmother, Tukabai, said, but your father is a king. And therefore, no ordinary people come to meet kings. Only other kings come. You know what Shivaji Raje said? If common people are scared of visiting and meeting the Raja, what kind of king is he? Look at the young boy's mind. And he insisted that a king is one of the people. The king is not a position. The Swami, as I explained to you earlier, is someone who first of all works on himself, and by virtue of that, people flock to him. Next slide, please. And he also created his army. Today we learn about diversity in many companies, but Shivaji was the first practitioner of diversity because he ensured that his army consisted of many people, many kinds of backgrounds, young and old, Brahmins, Marathas, Mahars, Prabhus, Deshmukhs, Deshpandes, all kinds of faiths and castes and subcastes. You may also know that he had many Muslims in his army, including some of the leaders, the generals. So he believed in integrating and having great diversity. What inspiration. Next slide, please. Yeah, please go to the next. We know about this oath. I'm going to skip a few slides. So if you see, I'm repeating. We see Stula Laksho, he always had a lofty vision. We see Vruddha Darshi, that he looked up to role models. We see Drudha Buddhi, how firm and resolute he was in his commitment. And we see Maha Utsaho, how he was full of energy. Next, please. I just have a few more slides. He also showed his ambition because on one occasion, when some of the older people in his kingdom, who were the loyalists of his father Shahaji. Shahaji, by the way, was not a king. He was an employee of various other invaders, but he had the spirit of a king. So when Firongji tried to dissuade him and say, don't take on the Mughals, they're too strong. Here is what he said. I can be very content over here sitting in my Jagir. Oh, everything is fine. But he said, I want a kingdom where each religion can be happy, where women and children can roam around freely without fear. The poor do not feel orphaned. I want to create one such kingdom, otherwise there's no point in living. Only those who are willing to sacrifice should join me in building the nation. So powerful. He was in Maharashtra, but he was thinking all the time about building the nation. Not like so many leaders today who are so selfish, only thinking about their cities and states and organizations and not about the world. Next, please. So he expanded. And what I want to share over here, he is called the father of the Indian Navy because for the first time, by the way, I want to tell you that Chandragupta Maurya had a force which fought on ships as well. But in the medieval times, Shivaji was the first one to have a full-fledged navy. That's why he's called the father of Indian Navy. He built a naval vessel and he had a base which was outside of Mumbai, not too far from here at Kalyan. Yeah, next please. We do know that how he was much smaller in size and height as compared to Afzal Khan. And Afzal Khan would have simply crushed him. But Shivaji Raje had gone completely planned. And he had brainwashed Afzal Khan into thinking that he is much mightier. And he will be able to finish off Shivaji Maharaj because he kept sending him letters. Shivaji Raje kept sending Afzal Khan letters. You are so great, I am scared of you. So when the moment came, Afzal Khan was so proud and so full of himself. He did not realize that Shivaji Raje was already ready with his Vagnak, as it's called. He was able to put it into the stomach of Afzal Khan and finish him. And he had already planned for the rest of his army to attack and brutally finish the invaders' army. Afzal Khan had come to take Shivaji alive. He had promised his queen, but he could not even survive. Just think about Afzal Khan's, about Shivaji's strategy and execution. Next slide, please. Yeah, let's go to the next slide, please, because I know time is limited. We're already at 12. So he showed his qualities of Shaurya and Amartya through this. Next slide, please. He also showed his ability to listen, to learn from various people, and also the wisdom of ruling over people justly, fairly, believing in that the king is there for the good of people, that praja ke sukh mein hi raja ka sukh hai. Yes, please. Next, please. And finally, he also exhibited very powerful communication. Shivaji was brilliant in building relationships. So he used Vagmi very effectively, and he also showed he had all the skills, whether it was horse riding, whether it was fighting with the sword, whether it was using the Vagnak, tiger claws, all sorts of skills he had. Hence, Shivaji Raje was complete in every way, and no surprise, friends, because this Swami called Shivaji Raje had also been trained under Dadoji Konde for Arthashastra. Right? So he used Arthashastra, he used Kautilya's principles thoroughly. So with that, please go to the next slide. I would have loved to tell you another story of a great minister called Tenali Ram. But I am going to leave it for another day. I'm sure this is not the last time in Aditya Institute. But I want to clarify, because we are on history, that Tenali Ram was no comedian. He was not a court jester. Our history has mutilated the facts. Tenali Ram was a great scholar. He was loved by his people. He was loved by his king. He was loved by the other ministers. Not because he was funny. Sure, he had a great sense of humor. But he was a scholar, and he was one of the Ashtadiggaj. And Ashtadiggaj refers to those masters in the kingdom of Vijayanagar, which was ruled by another wonderful king called Krishnadev Rai. And Krishnadev Rai and that Vijayanagar empire lasted for over 300 years. So what I want to tell you, my final leadership lesson, friends, is that Tenali Ram had passion, and everything he did, he executed perfectly, but he never took stress. Because of that, he always had a light-hearted approach to everything. That made people believe, at least in the modern world, that he's a court jester. No, he's not. He's a master, and I will save this story for another day. With that, last slide, please. My namaste and thanks to all of you, also to my colleague Tejal, who created this deck and put a lot of these inputs together. Yeah, I would encourage you to study Indian history, to know more. I've given you our contact details. I'm available on WhatsApp for you. I'm also available on my mail ID. We are also going to create the first Gurukul, which will be based on Chanakya's wisdom. It's called Chiranjeev Gurukul and will be launched in Diwali. The soft launch is tomorrow. All the best to you, dear friends. Thanks so much. Over to you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much for your gracious presence. I think you have narrated history with a smile, and that has added so much worth to the lessons which we have been able to learn, the leadership lessons out of each story narrated by you.
Very grateful, ma'am, for the opportunity. Thank you.
Right, right. I have taken away a couple of learnings today, and I would like to highlight that. The first thing was the concept of seva, which to me is a fundamental pillar of leadership, because a leader cannot rule people in today's context. So a leader has to command respect, command discipline, and rather than issuing instructions, needs to be with his or her people. So I think that is something which has come out very, very clearly in the way in which you have expressed all the leadership lessons. The other important thing was about intelligence. And I think Chanakya was all about using the right nitis at the right time. So I feel intelligence is actually the ability to be able to size up the situation and try and utilize your skills at the right time. So I think I'm extremely thankful to you on behalf of Aditya Institute of Management Studies and Research for sparing your valuable time and nurturing the students with these stories. As you said, this is not the last time. We are surely going to listen to more of these, and we are going to invite you to come and join us very soon. So on behalf of the Institute, uh, this small gesture, this small token of appreciation, and which we are going to make you reach, physically. We'll do that. Thank you so much.
Great pleasure. Thanks once again, ma'am, and all the best, dear students. Let this not be one session or one day. You seriously need to dig deeper into Indian history and wisdom. And I promise you it will combine well with the knowledge that you've already gained in your institute, make you much stronger. Please combine Indian wisdom with your modern management. Yeah, all the best to you. I will take your leave. Thanks once again. Bye-bye.